Welcome to my tête-à-tête with physics, a battery-powered car. With the recent trend of battery-powered cars, I believe this would be a great time to further understand the physics behind. In our model of the battery car, we are using a DC motor. So, how does it work? Let's start with the main parts and the science behind it. DC motors are used to convert electrical energy to kinetic energy, which is needed for the car to move. The DC motor starts with the outer protective casing, which is made out of metal. Next is the shaft, a cylindrical component that is outside the metal casing. The purpose of the shaft is to convert electrical energy in the motor to kinetic energy through rotation. Behind the motor are terminals. They conduct electricity from the copper wires. Now, inside the DC motor, there are more parts. First, there are two magnets, a south magnet and a north magnet. These magnets will help in the rotation of the DC motor. Next is the shaft, which is an extension of the shaft outside the metal casing. It also acts as a support for the coil and rotor. The rotor is laminated discs placed together to produce movement for the DC motor. Each disc has T-shaped arms. Wrapped around these discs are coil windings, which carry the electric current from the battery. As the current passes through the coils, it produces an electromagnetic field through the control of the timing and polarity of the electromagnetic field to create rotation. The end of the coil is connected to the commutator, which sits on the shaft. There are three segments of the commutator, all separated from each other. The end of each coil is connected to a different commutator segment to create connection. At the back plastic cover are the brushes, arm, and terminal. The commutator plate sit between the brushes. They rub against each other to complete the circuit. Electricity is then able to flow through the terminal to the arm, then to the brush and the commutator segment, into the coil, then out to another commutator segment, onto the opposite brush and arm, then back to the other terminal. Therefore, with the control of the timing and polarity of the electromagnetic field, we use the magnets on the side to create an upwards and downwards force to create rotation. And that is how the DC motor works, and a special thank you to the engineeringmindset.com. Now let's start the experiment. The materials used are as shown on the screen. First, we will be gluing our battery to our DC motor with a hot glue gun. We then glue the power switch to the battery using the hot glue gun. Now we connect the copper wires from the battery to the power switch to the DC motor to form a circuit.
Ryan Little.
Maybe we'll be okay.
And finally done with the copper wires. Now we are done with the electrical engine, we will move on to the body of the battery powered car. First, I am marking that cutting a hole in the car's body to make space for the engine. Making the car's axle, I mark the chopsticks, then cut them using a utility knife according to the width of the body. I then measure and cut the straw which connects the axle to the body of the car. Using a drill, now I am drilling holes in the wheels of the car to make space for the axle. Using a pre-cut piece of wood, I then make space for the rubber later which connects the motor to the axle. We then glue the wheels to the axles. And now we are done with the axle and its wheels. Now we mark and drill a hole to make space for the shaft of the DC motor. I am now marking then cutting a hole in the car's body to make a support for the DC motor. The support is made out of glued together popsicle sticks.
She's a Mona Lisa. Everyone's lining up to see her. She's a Mona Lisa. Everyone's lining up to see her. There must be something about her features. No, till I go numb. Dizzy till my legs go numb. Till I go numb. Baby, it's 4:30.
Now it's time to glue the axle of the car to the body of the car.
I'm all up in the clouds when it's pouring rain. Ain't never coming down unless you call my name. Yeah, we should take it slow, just like day by day, like day by day.
And final step, we attach the rubber to the shaft of the DC motor and the axle of the car. We are finally done with the battery-powered car, and this is my picture with it. Now we can see the battery-powered car turned on and running. Thank you for listening and watching my physics tête-à-tête.
I've been feeling so